remember that you fixed that car, motorcycle, piece of equipment, generator, or that boat next month. No one will remember that you called around everywhere to help the parts department find that part to get your customer out a week from now. No one will.
Hello, wrenches, and welcome to the Wrench Turners Podcast, 10 Mil Mastery Edition. It's a show where the lads and I discuss topics that are relevant to today's technicians and to service leaders as well, and maybe postulate or pontificate or populate your brains with information, ideas, and experiences that might help you live happier, healthier, and more productive lives on the shop floor. In today's episode, however, Russell tries to kill me. But we ask, and more specifically, he asks, how do you track your wins? Let's get into it.
How do you track and celebrate your wins?
Richard, you first, buddy.
Like Russell's saying, the automotive industry is difficult, especially in flat rate. Because as a flat rate technician, and Russell can attest to this, you are only as good as your last screw up, right? This is going to sound horrible, but in the big picture, nobody's going to remember your wins. They're not going to remember the moment you stayed late to get Mrs. Smith's car back on the road. They're not going to remember the day that you came in on your day off to work on that customer vehicle to get it out the door.
Amen.
They will, however, remember the last time you didn't torque a bolt, the last time, you misdiagnosed something and it came back. So really at the end of the day, like Josh said, journal. As a high value leader, I'm taking a ton away from conversations we have, and I'm using that to build myself, right? So I started doing quarterly sit downs. These aren't review sit downs or anything like that. The only thing that I haven't done is I got to get a notebook to document everything, and I want to celebrate these wins with my technicians. The times where they hit 130, 140% efficiency. I need a bigger one than that though. But this is what I want to start doing, right? In order for me to make an effective change in the industry, I need to be the change. I can't sit around and wait for somebody to do it. I need to become that change. So I'm doing quarterly sit downs with my technicians. This isn't a performance review or anything like that. This is solely just to see how they're doing, how, what's changed in their life, what I can try and work on to make work more enjoyable for them, to push forward. So yeah, I want to start celebrating their wins. I want to start making so I have a meeting every Wednesday with my technicians. Every Wednesday morning I have a shop meeting. Talk about what the issues are from the previous week, what we can work on going forward. And I thank them for the job that they do, because without them turning out the hours and kicking ass and doing the jobs that they do, the shop's dead in the water. And if the shop's dead in the water, I'm drowning. So I thank my technicians for the job that they do. But again, yeah, I think finding a high value leader that cares about their people, like John Fraser is the best example I can give right off the bat. That's what they're going to help you celebrate the wins, Russell. Because again, the negativity has been pounded into this industry where you're only as good as your last comeback. And it's fucking pathetic, to be honest, where guys will come, they'll bust their ass for you. They will crank out the efficiency and do the work. And then all you're reminded of is their last comeback. And that's not how it should be.
Absolutely not.
Journal, like Josh said, and find a high value leader that's going to celebrate you. That's my biggest takeaway from that. And you guys are helping me get there. So thank you.
And we're all learning from each other, buddy. Like the big one, I preach journaling so much because it's good for so many things. It's great for absolving anxiety and stress, but it also allows you to do things like Russell's asked, right? The big thing here is that very few, if any, I won't say none anymore, very few, if any, will help you or share in your wins. So being able to stack, even if it's the little wins, and Russell's not necessarily asking for the big stuff, like crushing out a 20-hour job in 16 hours. Like that's a really big win, right? Because you feel so just like weight lifted off your shoulders when you crush out a big job like that and crush the time on it. That's a big win. The journaling really helps with the small wins, right? When you look at and you can look at it from not only an income perspective, but an hours perspective or other things that mimic positives that you individually are looking for that helps in journaling that you can go back and reference. Now, you don't have to journal, but finding a way to write something down somewhere, whether it's notes in your phone or notes on the computer at work or scribe it into the goddamn bench you work on every day. I don't care, but you got to find a way to remember the small things and stack them over time, because we get bombarded, like Richard said, with so many negative things on a day-to-day basis that we have to find the positives ourselves so that we focus on those positive wins instead of the negative stuff. I frequently use the 80-20 rule for just about everything. Things that come at us as mechanics, 80% of the time is negative. It's people wanting something from us, wanting our time, wanting our energy, wanting our knowledge. And the majority of the time they want absolutely in no way to give anything back. Only 20% of the time is it positive, and only 20% of the time do they want to give something in return, whether it's an income, whether it's a favor, whether it's a bottle of beer. It doesn't matter. Only 20% of the times do we get something positive in return. So we have to become the 80% so that as often as that negative shit comes, we're tracking that so we make sure that the 80% is positive, right? Whether it's time off with kids, whether it's time off with spouses, whether it's I built up so much overtime that I took a week off on in lieu time. It took me 6 months and I tracked it on scribing on my desk, not necessarily in journaling, but I scribed on my desk every day that I put, half hour of overtime in, and I accumulated over 6 months. And after the end of 6 months, I went to HR. It's like, hey, I want to book a week off in July for in lieu time. I've got 40 hours accumulated. And they go, oh, well, I don't see that 40 hours. And then you go to your scribe table, take a picture of it with the work order written down on the time that you had your overtime on it. And you go, you can track it. Go back the last 6 months. These are all the ROs with all the time on it. That is a twofold. A, you're stacking your wins. And B, you have a way to say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Accounting person, you owe me. Those are kind of an inverse negative to think about, but you have to do it for yourself, both short, medium, and long term. So yes, journal. Marshall, how do you do something similar? I know you do like the majority of your work order writing, so you write constantly. I know you do.
Yeah, I keep I got like various notes deals in my phone, so just all kinds of stuff I think about throughout the day, just random stuff or reminders. I keep like my apprentices' birthdays and things like that in there to track that kind of stuff. And I also track all of my apprentices and myself sales. And I go all the way to GP and their efficiencies, productivity, everything. I track all of that stuff month to month. I track it year to year so I can see my year over year. I track a lot of stuff. But I was thinking a lot about, it got me jazzed up. Richard was talking about the nobody will remember, and I don't know if you guys remember, but back in October last year, I wrote an article and I named it "No One Will Remember Your Name." I don't know if you guys remember that one, but it was like this is the first paragraph. No one will remember that you fixed that car, motorcycle, piece of equipment, generator, or that boat next month. No one will remember that you called around everywhere to help the parts department find that part to get your customer out a week from now. No one will remember that you worked 55 hours a week for years to support your customers a year from now. No one will remember that you always kept your base clean a week after you leave. What was your legacy?
That gets me just as much listening to you. You know what? That gets me more listening to you read it than it was reading it back in October.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it made me think
legacy.
Really hard on it that I need to write a follow up to that article because I never did, and I have notes for it, but I just haven't. I've had a lack of motivation with it. I'll pop one out every once in a while when I'm thinking about stuff at work, but anyhow, back to tracking the stuff. Basically, I do a lot of tracking. I keep a lot of stuff, but I give my apprentices a lot of things that I never had, which was a lot of the general support, the motivation, and you're building a lot of confidence by giving them all that. And it's thankless for us journeymen because we have the ability to support the junior techs coming in and give them the things that we don't have or we didn't have. And we only get to bitch up, right? We never get to bitch down. We are only allowed to bitch up and laterally, and even laterally is sketchy because the technician next to you that might be equal to you may not be the best person to bitch to, right? So we're only really allowed to bitch up. And, not everybody has a 10 mil mastery that they can text at 10 o'clock at night or whatever to complain about something that happened during the day. So, it is pretty thankless being a senior tech on the floor and not having any of that. If you don't have a high value leader that's got your back and is constantly telling you how good you are and how much they appreciate you and all of those things, what I do is I lean that into my apprentices, and the things that I don't have or that I wish I had, I remind myself to pass those things on to my apprentices so that they don't have to feel the same way that we do.
And I've said it before, but I think it's our duty. I think once you crest that 10-year mark, once you crest about that 10-year mark, and it's a little different for everybody because 10 years might mean 29, not 40. But I think roughly at about 10 years, you've had your 5 years of fucking around, having mentors, teaching the ropes, teaching the basics, getting your feet wet, so on. And then you had another 5 years of, for the most part, being on your own. Especially in automotive, it's a lot more singular in a lot of places. There aren't as many places out there that are as team focused and as team built in the shops. Thus far in my experience, both through personal experience, through you guys, and through coaching. But that said, that 5 years on your own teaches you more, or should teach you more about yourself and what you want to accomplish. And I think that life experience that happens in the trade in that 10 years is enough for you to start being able to say, hey, 10 years ago, I had to put up with this bullshit, but I got through it this way. This is how I coped with that. This is how I managed with that from an internal standpoint. This is how I managed to get through it. This was the result of my experience. I think it's our duty to share that with the next generation. And I think generationally, it's about somewhere between 10 and 15 years. I don't think it's 20 to 25. I think if you wait that long, I think if you wait 20 years to start using that information or downloading that information down, you've wasted a lot of opportunities, not for yourself, but for the next generation to learn from. I think that's
like Richard said, though,
of our duty.
Well, like Richard said, though, it's more of our duty even to make a difference because we have voices. We have our seniority brings with it an immense power that a lot of us don't realize. And that is part of that power is that what we say and the things that we mention, just the bugs in the ears, make a difference to our leaders' thought processes behind the house, some of the things they're handling. They may not even realize it's a problem in the shop or what have you. So sometimes just putting a bug in the ear makes a difference, but I feel like it's even more. It's our duty to make a difference, and we know that there is a lot of barriers to entry. Doesn't matter if it's automotive or HD or marine or gensets or whatever you want to do. There's a lot of barriers to entry that to do what we do, and I feel like it's our duty to step up and say, "Hey, this guy, he's ready for training, dude. Have you seen that guy out there? I know he's just an apprentice, but we got to feed that while he's hungry. Because if you let him stay stagnant, he's going to die out there, and then we're going to be replacing him, and we just wasted a year, 2 years getting him to where he's at, or her, whatever. So when we say something, typically people listen. So I feel like it's our duty to jump in and say those things when they need to be said. You're muted, Josh.
You're muted, Josh.
Touch the buttons even when I'm not paying attention, for God's sake. I think to round that off, to add, there are a lot of ways that you can track it. You can track a lot of things. It's going to be individualized by person. So anybody listening to this is going to have their own set of metrics that they want to track. But I would suggest in any field that you're in, as long as you're turning a wrench, there are a few things that you need to track. And in terms of your production, I think you need to be tracking your production, period. Daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and so forth, because that represents your ability to produce long term. It may not be 100% reflective, because looking back only gets you so much going forward, but it gives a foundation with which that you can walk in, and let's say you have a journal that is only production written in it, right? Let's say that's all you're tracking for yourself and writing down for yourself. But you can hand that journal into a potential new leader and say, hey, this is my last 18 months. When any leader, and the previous question in last week, quote unquote, last week's session, y'all heard about how you value yourself, right? How do you add value? How do you value yourself when you're looking for a job, so on and so forth? Well, if you walk into a service leader's office for an interview and you lay your thing down, so to speak, your journal, and you've got 18 months worth of your production history, what does that do to your value as a whole? A, you're now detail oriented. B, you're focused on being productive and bettering yourself. C, they can see what kind of notes you take and how you take notes. D, they know you track stuff, so they know you're going to hold them as accountable as they try to hold you. Like, that says a lot to both sides of that equation. Tracking, Russell's asked the question, how do you track your wins? This is, even if all you do is track your production, that's a great way to track your wins, because you can pick out where you were on par, or you birdied, or you eagled on a job. Right, that's how you can do that. You can look back. Okay, on Saturday night, you're sitting by yourself in front of a bonfire, drinking a beer, going, "Oh, woe is me! I feel awful because it was an awful week." You open the journal and you look at the journal with nothing but productions numbers in it, and you circle all the places where you won. You win 3 times in one day. It doesn't matter whether it's 0.1 or not. It's still a fucking win. And what many don't understand that come to me for coaching, when they ask, how can I make more money? It's not that you had to go to work. You look at the journal and you got to say, I worked for a week. I get to work. I get to have a paycheck. I get to have a roof over my head. I get to provide for my family. I get to do these things. And guess what? I did that. That's my hard work. That's my education. That's my experience. That's my well-being. That's my blood, sweat, and tears on that page. That's my blood and sweat and tears that's in that paycheck. Don't devalue that. And that's what Russell's asking. I think that's what you're asking, good sir. How do we make sure that we stay positive in the negative when every day is a positive. Our good friend Russell Hill, every time I ask him, how you doing, sir? His answer is always, greatest day of my life. Greatest day of my life. Why? We woke up and we get to live another day. Doesn't matter what happens during the day, we get to wake up and live another day. We get to enjoy life. We get to enjoy our families. We get to enjoy our spouses, our sons, our daughters, our aunts, our uncles. We get to enjoy our baymates. We get to enjoy each other. We get to sit at 9:30 at night in a midsummer July, and we get to have a conversation about shit that we love to do. Damn right, it's a great day. Damn right. Love it. Love it. Great question, Russell. Great question, Russell. Now, oh no! That's the end of another episode, Wrenches! But that's okay, because there's going to be another one coming next week. Folks, we really appreciate you stopping by, having a listen, having a watch, giving your feedback, the comments, the likes, the shares, the reshares, the subscribing to the channel. We hope that you subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate all that. We appreciate all of you that came out to the live event and watched, those of you that are streaming it afterwards, those of you that happen to also read the Wrenches for Wrenches newsletter. We appreciate all of it, your feedback, and help to get in front of as many eyeballs and ear holes of technicians as we possibly can to help them live happier, healthier, more productive lives. We appreciate all of it. Now, don't forget, folks, if this happens to be your first time watching an episode of the Wrench Turners podcast, that we do drop 4 times a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And the Wrenches for Wrenches newsletter comes out every 2 weeks on Sundays. It came out just a few days ago on Sunday with the latest bit, me talking about my recent purchase of a brand new motorcycle and how that whole process just kind of, well, you'll have to read it for yourself to understand a little bit better. Folks, the biggest thing that we always need to leave you with, negative pushes, positive pulls, and always clean your toys before you put them away. Russell, I think it's your go, buddy.
How do you track and celebrate your wins?
Journal. 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 Journal.
Whiteboard.
Okay. Beyond.
You gotta have something, because this business, especially for flat rate techs, can beat you down so quick if you're not tracking what you're winning, and all you see is the losses. So.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You need a cough button.
Okay. Oh.
I tried to kill him. Did you see that?
Oh my goodness. Okay, we might have to. Oh my god. Oh, I just inhaled all of that. Okay, note, Gatorade doesn't feel nice on the lungs. Oh, I'm sorry.